When I took my first cruise, I made some pretty big mistakes, and what I'm most surprised about now is that multiple years down the line, I meet so many first-time cruisers out on ships who seem to be making exactly the same mistakes as I did, and that's brought me to this video today. Today I'm going to share with you 10 of the big mistakes I find first-time cruisers repeatedly make, time and time again, out on cruise ships. If you find this video useful and if you enjoy it, then it would be great if you'd think about supporting my channel by clicking both the thumbs up and the subscribe buttons. If you've just found me today for the first time, then I'm Fraser and I want to use my YouTube channel to help as many people as possible have the best cruise vacation yet. So hit subscribe and come along with me. Anyway, let's get started with the first of 10 big mistakes that first-time cruisers seem to make all the time. And that is that they choose the wrong line or the wrong ship. It's so important for you to understand what you want to get out of your cruise and then spend time researching the various cruise lines and cruise ships to make sure that you book one that's actually going to satisfy what you want to get out of this whole thing. I'm a huge believer in that there's a ship and a cruise line out there for everyone, but I'm also a huge believer in that not every cruise ship is going to suit everybody. For example, if you're looking at cruises and you want to book one with all the mod cons and you want water parks, massive cinemas, surfing simulators, carousels, an aqua theatre, then you're probably going to want to book with a cruise line like Royal Caribbean. If you then find yourself jumping on, for example, a Cunard ship, you might be quite disappointed when you just can't find the aqua theatre, you can't find the water park, and you can't find any of the other big attractions that you were hoping to see from the ships that you've seen on TikTok and Instagram, for example. If you want a more traditional and perhaps more formal cruising experience, then you might want to look at cruise lines like Cunard. It might sound really straightforward, but you do just need to be really careful here. Because using the above examples, Royal Caribbean doesn't just offer mega ships with all the huge Instagram-worthy attractions. They also operate a number of much smaller, much older, and much more traditional cruise ships. What that means is that you could book a cruise with Royal Caribbean thinking that you were going to get on a ship that would have a huge water park with slides, an aqua theatre, so on and so forth, and you could find yourself on one that only has a very small number of these big hitting attractions. Exactly the same logic applies with Cunard. You might think you're booking an older, more traditional and perhaps quite a historic ship because you've seen the Queen Mary 2 before, but the reality is you've booked a cruise on Queen Anne, which is a much newer cruise ship, and while, yes, she's still a beautiful ship, she's very different to what you might be expecting if you're thinking about the Queen Mary 2. In short, spend some time figuring out exactly what you want before then beginning your mission to find it. Number 2. So many first-time cruisers choose the wrong type of cabin. So many people told me before my first cruise that a cabin just isn't an important part of the cruise experience because you spend such little time in there. Over my first few cruises, I would tend to fully agree with that, but the more cruises that I've taken, the more I've realised that it is a really important element to consider when you're booking your cruise. If I'm going on a cruise where I think I'll spend more time in the cabin, then, of course, I'll be more inclined to book one where I've got at least some natural daylight coming in. If it's going somewhere particularly scenic, for example, Norway or Alaska, or if I just want to have my own space to relax in, then it's probably quite important to consider paying extra to get a balcony. If you've followed me for a while, you'll know that I'm a huge advocate of booking inside cabins, but those rooms just don't suit everyone, so it's really important that before you book your first ever 21-night cruise in an inside cabin, you just do a bit of research to check that cabin is going to work for you. The top tip that I give anyone in this regard is you're already on YouTube. Just search up in that search bar for your ship name and the cabin type you're looking for, and I can almost guarantee you someone somewhere will have filmed a room tour. Number 3, staying on the topic of cabins, so many first-time cruisers don't pick their cabin location. The more cruises that I've taken, the more I've realised that this actually is something that is quite important. Generally speaking, if I do choose my own cabin location, I want to surround myself with other passenger cabins in order to avoid being woken up early in the morning with things like sun loungers being dragged across the deck or music from the onboard nightclub coming up through the floor and keeping me awake all night. Before I started cruising, I just didn't realise that noise would travel the way that it can. But of course it does. You're on a ship. I've actually created a whole YouTube video on this exact topic of how to choose the best location on any cruise ship. I'll leave the link to that video in the description of this one, so feel free to jump down there towards the end of this video to go and give that a watch. Number 4, so many first-time cruisers don't buy any packages before they cruise, and then they end up paying so much extra for things once they get on board. I've met so many first-time cruisers that don't buy packages online before they cruise because they've had a look and they seem really expensive, and surely when you get on board, they'll be trying to sell them at a reduced price to get people to buy them. Think about things like photo packages, speciality dining packages, drinks packages, or maybe even Wi-Fi packages. Once they then get on the ship, they then think, okay, yes, I do need Wi-Fi, I'm now going to buy it when I'm on board, or yes, I do need a drinks package, I'll buy it now that I'm on the ship. Now, this isn't a huge issue, but cruise lines will allow you to save money by booking in advance, so don't fall into that trap of thinking that it's going to be cheaper once you're on the ship. Some cruise lines will allow you to save between 15 and 20% if you order and pay for the relevant package before you cruise. This sort of thing is a bit of a no-brainer for me. I personally always will try to buy a Wi-Fi package when I'm on board, and if I can save 20% on the cost of that, then that's just money that's better off in my pocket than the pocket of the cruise line at the end of the day. So always jump on any packages that you want to buy, order it and pay for it before you cruise. Number 5, so many first-time cruisers, including me on my first cruise, don't budget properly for what they're going to spend on board. The more cruises that I've taken, the more I've realised this can be such a huge problem, because sometimes I'll spend more on board than I actually did on the cruise. Yes, if I take the cruise fare that I've paid to go on that ship, I'll sometimes accrue more costs than that while on board. With some cruise lines, you'll have loads of things included as standard, like, for example, soft drinks, excursions, and maybe even things like Wi-Fi. With others, though, you won't. So it's super important that you understand exactly what you're going to have to pay for and what you're going to get for free. I've booked some really cheap cruises in the past, and I've found that I've spent more than the fare once I get on the ship. Believe it or not, there are cruise ships out there that don't offer complimentary water outside of mealtimes. If you look at Costa Cruises, which is a huge European cruise line, when you get on the ship, you'll be able to drink water free of charge if you're at, for example, the onboard buffet restaurant during mealtimes. But outside of that, even water by the glass, you're going to have to pay for. So just make sure you do your homework to understand what's chargeable on that ship, so that you can then budget correctly to make sure that you've got enough money. Number 6, and this one drives me absolutely mad. I meet so many first-time cruisers who think the best way to see a port is to go on a cruise line excursion. Now, yes, cruise line excursions do give you a lot of security in terms of if the excursion is delayed in returning to the ship will usually either wait for you, or the cruise line will arrange how you're all going to meet it at the next port. So generally speaking, it's a much safer option. However, so many of the ports out there, you don't actually need that safety, because a lot of excursions will leave at 9 o'clock in the morning, they'll come back at lunchtime, and then the ship will set sail at 5 p.m, 7 p.m, whatever time at night. If, in that example, you're 4 hours late or 5 hours late returning from your excursion, then that's not just roadworks. Something pretty major has gone wrong there. I'm a huge advocate of exploring a cruise port independently rather than going from the cruise ship on a bus with all of your fellow cruisers. I really like external websites like Viator or Get My Guide. There are so many out there. There's also the option that when you get off the ship, you could speak to a local vendor who will usually have a stall within the cruise terminal about going to see whatever attractions it is that you're interested in. So don't instantly get stung by paying really high cruise line fees to go on official excursions when you could get the same thing for a fraction of the price independently. Number 7. So many first-time cruisers don't bring any motion sickness medication, despite the fact they don't know how their body is going to react to being on a ship. I speak to people so often who say, oh, I did think about it, but I didn't bring it because I've never been motion sick before. I've never experienced motion sickness. And I can't believe that I'm on this cruise right now and I'm unwell and I don't feel right. I think with this one, you're so much better safe than sorry. In the big picture, motion sickness medication and preventative measures is so cheap compared to what you're paying to go on the cruise. You can pick up things like tablet medication from the supermarket or most pharmacies. You can also purchase wearables, so you can wear bracelets that apply a little bit of pressure onto your wrist. They apparently help to stabilise you. You can also buy patches, which just get placed behind your ear, and that also apparently really helps motion sickness. Now, I've been really fortunate that I very, very rarely feel any negative impact from being on a cruise ship, but I think if I was in the situation where I was on my first cruise, I was feeling unwell because of the motion, I'd be really kicking myself for not spending the £15 or $20 to just bring some medication on the ship with me. So yes, number 7, pack your medication. Number 8, and I can't believe I'm saying this, the next thing that first-time cruisers seem to continue to get wrong is that they don't pack for the weather. The most important thing to remember at all times when you're planning to go on a cruise is that that cruise takes place on a ship that moves. Now, why is that important? That's important because sometimes these ships will travel hundreds of miles to go between ports, to go between countries, and to go between places. That means that obviously the weather in these places will be different. If you look at the example of cruising out of the UK, if you go on a cruise that will last for 14 nights and you leave from Southampton, chances are you're going to end up in the Med. That means that the weather in England might be cold, wet, and pretty miserable, but by the time you get to the Mediterranean, it could be beautifully warm and sunny. So make sure that you pack your shorts and t-shirt. If you're watching this video from the US, the same argument could apply for those of you who might be cruising from New York City. If you cruise from New York in fall or the winter season, it will probably be pretty cold when you get on the ship. So you're going to need, I would imagine, gloves, scarves, a jacket so that you can stay warm out on deck. But if you're going on, again, maybe a 14-night cruise, that might go to the Bahamas or it might go around the Caribbean. And down there, you might feel a little bit silly walking about with a jacket and a hat on. So make sure that you pack for the weather that you're going to experience at all of your ports of call, not just where you embark the ship and disembark the ship. Number 9. So many first-time cruisers don't know about the little things that you can take with you to make your cruise so much better and so much simpler. One example that I would give is that so many people don't realise that 9 times out of 10, the walls in your cruise ship cabin will be magnetic or they'll be metal. That means that you can then use things like magnets to hang things on the wall. I find this particularly useful if I'm on a cruise ship where I'm getting quite a lot of daily paperwork. I like to get my daily schedule of events delivered to the cabin, even if it's available digitally, because every night when I go to bed, I like to lie there and circle what I want to do the next day, and then wake up and read what I've agreed to do. The way my mind works, I just find it so much easier to do it on paper. Now, if I can leave that paper on a desk, then fine, it's going to probably get in the way. That means that I would much rather use a magnet to stick it on the wall. That means that I know where it is all the time. I'm not constantly searching for it. I'm not worried that my cabin attendant is going to pop it in the bin or the trash can. I know that if I'm looking for that bit of paper, it's probably going to be on the wall. Now, I could go into a million different examples of things that you can take to make your cruise more simple, but you don't have all day to sit here on this YouTube video. You can find a link to my Amazon store down in the description of this video. There I have got hundreds of items that will help your cruise go a little bit simpler. For example, if you're travelling with a family, have you got storage solutions that could help? Do you have packing cubes? Do you have fabric softener that can help you get rid of creases in all your clothes because you can't use an iron on board? There are so many things. Head to the description of this video and jump over to my Amazon store. Number 10, and I will probably be preaching to the converted on this one because you're already here on YouTube. So many first-time cruisers fail to do the correct level of research before they get on a cruise. They board the ship and they have no idea where anything is. They have no idea what's included. They have no idea what the onboard experience should or shouldn't be like. And then when they get to the ports, they have no idea what they're going to do. So they end up wasting the day just walking around the terminal rather than actually going ashore and seeing something really amazing. Now, I know that you're already doing some research because you wouldn't be watching this video and you wouldn't be watching this far into this video if you weren't interested. But before I go on a cruise, I will study deck plans of the ship. I'll have been on a virtual tour of my cabin via a YouTube video. I'll have watched a dining guide for the ship. There are so many ways that you can do some research to help to set your expectations so that you know what to expect from your next cruise. In the world we operate in now, everything is available on YouTube. So in my opinion, there isn't really too much of an excuse for not just spending time, relax somewhere at home in your favourite chair before you get on the cruise, search for a room tour, search for a ship tour, and try and get your bearings before you get on the ship. That just means that from the minute you get on board, you'll feel way more familiar and way more comfortable with that ship and all of your surroundings than all of your other first-time cruiser fellow counterparts will feel who haven't done any research. And that's it. That's the 10 things that I feel first-time cruisers are still getting wrong. As I mentioned at the start of this video, loads of these things I got wrong when I took my first cruise, and hopefully this video will just help some people to not make those mistakes and be a little bit better prepped for their future cruise. Now, if you've enjoyed this video, which I really hope you have, then it would be great if you would think about supporting my channel by clicking both the thumbs up and the subscribe buttons to come on so many more trips going forward. If you'd like to stay watching this channel, which I would really appreciate, then why not come and join me in another video? Over here in this video, I walk you through some of the things that you really should be doing in your cruise ship cabin as soon as you board the ship and as soon as you get in that room for the first time. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll hopefully see you over there.